Okay, this is a little racial profile of America. I, of course, started off in New York, which is a sort of, well, let's just say I live in a rather cosmopolitan place in upstate New York, a place I would call civilized. Anyway, as you come across to this sort of area, you get very much into, there is a lot of black culture here. Yeah, and I'm talking sort of stereotypical black culture, like guys wearing oversized t-shirts and the such like. And also, Toledo is the only place that I've ever been where I've seen a man with a little holster and a handgun in going to the supermarket. I mean, yeah, the place is, this is all, if you like, metropolized. It's all suburban and city-like, but why on earth would you need a gun to go to the supermarket? I mean, Second Amendment is basically about forming militias to defend the country. It's not about carrying guns to the supermarket. And yeah, indeed, the very idea of carrying guns to the supermarket sort of makes a mockery of having the police. I mean, sure, you can have guns to go hunting and the such like, and it's antiquated at the moment, but when they made up the Second Amendment, there was a sort of paranoia about corrupt governments, and so they gave the people the right to bear arms to defend themselves against their own corrupt government, or from foreign meddlers, invaders. So carrying a handgun to the supermarket is just way off. I mean, why on earth in a civilized country do you need a handgun to go to the supermarket? Anyway, Chicago is an absolute nightmare metropolis. And very quickly, once you get into this region, you get into really quite heavy Bible stuff, in that at all of the rest areas, there are these free America Nation of Destiny style newspapers, which are really quite unsettling. I picked up a couple because they really are that unsettling. Anyway, so the area in the middle is very, very quiet. And then you get to Rapid City, and Rapid City is, without a doubt, white man city. This is one of the most racially monochromatic cities that I've seen in America, in that everyone is white. I mean, anyone who isn't white really does stick out in Rapid City. Then there's nothing in this region. This is no one lives here. Then through the Bighorns, Yellowstone. The national parks, ironically, are also fairly heavily racially filtered, but not quite in the way that you would expect. The demographics, by my eyeballing, are about 30% of the people in the national parks are foreigners, mostly Europeans. The remaining 2/3 are almost exclusively white and are composed of either families or retirees. But again, the national parks are incredibly racially monochromatic. Almost no black people whatsoever in the national parks. Then, where do we come? We came across through, no one lives here, of course, and this is one of the most crazily desolate areas ever. You walk like 100 yards off the road and die, and no one would ever find your body. Glacier, another national park. Then there was a little town in here which must count as the most patriotic town I've ever seen. Well, I say patriotic. It was basically Flag City. Like it's all really quite poor. Kalispell is rich from the tourist trade, but you get out the back here and you'll find it's all poor farmers living in trailers and such like. Well, there's this one place and it had like flags everywhere. And then very quickly you get into Spokane and all of a sudden you're in civilization again. So there are as much as shallow as though it sounds. The number of coffee shops. Actually, coffee shops are very prolific in this area. You get all these little coffee shacks by the side of the road, and you don't see any of that really at all. It's almost unique to this sort of area. You start seeing them in Montana, but Spokane is like coffee central. So, anyway, and you get down into, so I came down through Rainier, and then ended up in Tacoma. And Tacoma's interesting in that it's the only place where I've seen, I'm not quite sure which it was, but it was some sort of kanji characters, and it was an H-Mart, which looked like it sold is sort of almost exclusively Oriental stuff. So there is obviously a sort of fairly heavy Asian community in this area. But anyway, so that's my experience of what America looks like on a demographics basis as you go from my travels.